Texas bar, and now you're practicing law, and we wanted to have you on today because we've been talking a lot about the Zimmerman trial, and we've had so many questions about the ins and outs and what's okay about it and what's not okay about it, and so you were kind of shedding some light before the show started about the Zimmerman trial, and so kind of give us your professional
opinion on George Zimmerman and his upcoming trial. Well, we all know what happened, right? Unless you've been living under a rock somewhere, you know who George Zimmerman is, you know who Trayvon Martin is. Last year in February, George Zimmerman was driving through his neighborhood, running some personal errands, although he was a volunteer neighborhood watchman, and he saw someone suspicious. So he did what he usually does, and he called the non-emergency number to report a suspicious person walking through the neighborhood. This person ended up being 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, who was wearing a black hoodie, and from what we've heard, that's what made him suspicious.
It was the hoodie.
Was the hoodie. And he was killed. George Zimmerman is now claiming self-defense, and we later found out that Trayvon Martin had Skittles and a can of iced tea on him, and so what were you defending yourself against?
Yeah. And also the 911 call.
Yes.
And they told Zimmerman to stay where he was and not do anything.
Correct. And so there's the notion that he provoked any sort of altercation that eventually ensued, so how can you then claim self-defense?
Which is, you were just talking about the stand your ground law.
Correct.
And how it's different there than it is here in Texas.
It is a little different. So what the stand your ground law? Okay, so normally there's something called the castle.
I like that you're putting this on layman's terms for women. Like you're dumbing it down for us. I feel
for anyone, it's really easy for me to sit and watch and someone mention voir dire and I automatically know what it is. In layman's terms, that means they're picking the jury. They're questioning the jury and trying to figure out. They need 6 impartial, unbiased people on that jury to make a decision.
How do you find that at this point when it's been all over the news?
Listen, from what I heard the other day during jury selection, you would think that some of these people are living under rocks because some of them have. I have never heard about this. I don't have any opinions. Exactly. I'm sitting there going, really? Come on now. So the castle doctrine, basically that means when you're in your castle, your home, right? You have a right to protect yourself if someone is threatening you.
It's coming in your home.
Correct. What these stand your ground laws do is then allow you to take that sort of outside the home, okay, and you can use force, even deadly force, if you feel like you're being threatened.
To protect your personal space.
Correct.
And the Texas, which one is Texas?
In Texas, we have a stand your ground law, but it's different than the Florida law. Because in Texas, it says in the body of the law that you cannot be the one who provoked the altercation. They don't have that in Florida. But what's interesting about this case is they've not invoked the stand your ground defense. They could have had a hearing on that very matter, and they didn't.
Do you think that they don't do that because when the prosecution starts making their case, perhaps they'll talk about the way the law is in Texas?
Correct.
And they'll talk about the fact that he did provoke it. If he got out of his car and went to go track this kid down because he thought he was suspicious, that's provoking it.
So is the stand your ground law mean that the car is his? I don't understand if it's on public ground.
You can be in public. And in Texas, as long as you're there legally and you're not doing anything wrong, you can use deadly force to protect yourself.
Now, if Trayvon Martin came into his car, that would be a different
totally
thing.
different. And what they're going to argue here is this is not a typical stand your ground issue. He's claiming self-defense. And where this gets tricky is, so even if I did go after him, George Zimmerman is claiming at some point in time I stopped and I was walking back to my car and then Trayvon attacked me. And that's what this jury is going to have to decide if that's actually what happened.
Can't they say that Trayvon Martin was acting in self-defense then if he came after him?
Absolutely, but Trayvon Martin's not the one on trial here, so they have to determine what George Zimmerman did. And let me just say it so it's clear. Here in Texas, you can't provoke. There was a case here that was decided last year where a gentleman down in Houston had an altercation with his neighbor. They got into a fight. It's all on video, 22 minutes of it, where the guy is going, I'm on the phone with the 911 operator. I am scared. I'm feeling threatened. I am standing my ground, you know, in light of the Trayvon Martin situation, and he killed his neighbor. He was found guilty. He could not use self-defense as a defense in his case because they said he's the one who actually provoked it. So I wonder that's, you know, Zimmerman's counsel said, we need to be careful about this, we need to focus on the
when there were no eyewitnesses and nobody knows.
We don't know.
And we don't know. So how, I mean.
And listen, it's not clear cut. What we do know
they'll
is that
talk about the cut on his head.
Zimmerman clearly, I mean, there was some sort of altercation there, and it's going to be up to both sides to kind of present the case and allow the jury to decide what happened. But at the end of the day, Trayvon Martin isn't here to tell his story. And I often tell people, take race out of it. Try to. What if it was your son?
That's
What if it was your son? Well, and he was coming home, and next thing you know, he's dead.
Yeah.
You'd want some sort of justice, right?
Well, I would go crazy. And kill
I just like you a lot. I mean, good.
There's Susie's stamp of approval.
That's
one more question about the trial. What about the jury being sequestered?
Okay, this is a big deal. Okay, you've got this voir dire process going on. They started with 500 potential jurors. You're trying to find six and 4 alternates. The judge decided, because the publicity this case is getting, that the jurors and the alternates will have to be sequestered. And they're saying this jury, they're optimistically saying that the trial is going to take 2 to 4 weeks. Right? None of us believe that. So we're talking about people who are going to be away from their families, and for good reason. One of the potential jurors yesterday said, based on what she had seen in the media, she concluded that Trayvon was out there looking for a fight. And this was all based on what she had seen in the media. The defense released some things recently, some text messages and stuff of Trayvon's that might be tainting some people. So they need to make sure people are focusing on what's presented in the court and not making any sort of decisions about outside discussions.
So interesting.
Will you come back as the trial progresses and as we take steps throughout? I want your opinion.
This is a big one. Yeah. This is like the biggest trial since OJ, and lots of
because so much of it has to do with race and with stereotypes and with and in the end of it, we have a teenage boy who's
all
dead,
about that black hoodie.
All about the black hoodie.
Anyone who says that first impressions regarding what you're wearing does not matter, this is a perfect example that it does.
We're going to take